Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to the 93rd session of Majlis Al Khonji via Zoom. Please allow me to introduce our guest for this session, Dr. Nadiya AlSaadi, Executive Director at Mawarid. After being awarded her doctorate in plant genetics from the University of Minnesota in 2002, she joined the Department of Crop Sciences College of Agricultural and Marine Sciences at Sultan Qaboos University, where she held a variety of positions, including the Assistant Dean of Postgraduate Studies and Research. From 2010, she worked for the Research Council Program Director for the development of the National Strategy for Animal and Plant Genetic Resources Center and was appointed her Executive Director of the Oman Animal and Plant Genetic Resources Center, now known as Mawarid, in 2012. Dr. Nadiya's main research interests are biodiversity and genetic resource conservation. She is proud to be the national focal point of the medicinal plants for the Indian Ocean Rim Association and a member of the Conservation of Nature IUCN group on Curb Wild Relatives. Welcome, Dr. Nadiya, to Majlis Al Khonji, and we look forward for your presentation. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Reham, and Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. It's really a pleasure for me to be here today to talk to you, although I must say I'm a bit intimidated because I'm talking to businessmen and I'm coming from a scientific background. But today what I'll be presenting to you is the treasure that we have in Oman, the genetic resources that we have in Oman. That includes our plants, our animals, our marine species, our microbial species, what value they have. Actually, it is really a treasure that we have to explore, and we are just scratching the surface on these resources. If I can share my presentation, I'll go ahead and share. I'll share my screen. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah.
Yes, it's clear.
Okay.
Let's put it on full mode, please.
I'll put it on full mode. Okay, great. So today I'll talk about genetic resources of Oman. I know it was very interesting to hear that you're keen to know what are genetic resources. And as I said, it's a native treasure that we need to explore. Genetic resources mainly are the plants, the animals, the marine and microbial species we have in Oman. So anything that has the ability to be transferred on to future generations. It has genes and any heredity information. And mainly it's the resources that we use on a daily basis, the food that we're used to, the medicines that we take, some of the furniture, all this come from our genetic resources. Today, I want to just take you into our little world of Oman's genetic resources. As I say, Oman's resources are actually similar to resources that are in the African continent as well as in the Asian continent. And this gives us this unique feature of biodiversity in Oman. Just start to talk a little bit about the work that we do in Mawarid, and maybe I'll talk a little bit about the potential commercial opportunities in these resources that if we continue to explore, we can really benefit from them. And as I start to talk about Mawarid, I'm going to keep in mind that we are mainly focusing at the research level. So it's mainly the foundation of many businesses or foundation of new businesses, foundation for the conservation of our environment, for providing jobs to our society as well. So most of our work is related to that. The center was established in 2012. It was under the formerly known as Research Council. And this was by royal orders of the late Sultan Qaboos bin Said, may Allah be pleased with him. He saw the great opportunity, the vision of these resources and what the potential they have. And the center was established then to look at these opportunities and explore them. So the mission of the center is to promote so that people know what we have in Oman in terms of genetic resources, sustainable exploitation, to really utilize them because they have huge potential. Some of these resources are endemic to Oman, and found only in Oman, cannot be found anywhere else. So you can imagine the potential of that. And if we explore further deep in and understand the genetic component of it and what are the uses of these resources, definitely there's huge commercial opportunity there as well. And then also as a center, we are focusing on adding value to genetic resources. And I'll mention a little bit about some of the activities we do. Our vision is to build capacity, be a collaborative hub, and share knowledge across economic and social segments, and most definitely add value. We are focusing all our work and our mandate to be aligned with the Oman Vision 2040, which is an effect in the environment and natural resources priority in Oman Vision 2040. So we need an effective, balanced, and resilient ecosystem to protect the environment and ensure sustainability of natural resources to support the national economy. As I mentioned earlier, we work in 4 sectors. We cover the plants, so all the plants that you see in Oman, the animals, both domesticated and wild, marine species, from fishes to corals to sponges, and diatoms to the littlest creature in the ocean, microbes, fungi, bacteria, and so on. And I'll expand a little bit on that. As I expand on it, I'll explain our work, and then I'll also touch upon any commercial opportunities that are available. So if I start with the animal sector, we work, as I said, on domesticated animals and wild species. And some of the work that we've actually worked on, very exciting. The first project we worked on, and we completed this project, was on the Arabian ghazal. And mainly why we want to study the Arabian ghazal is mainly to know the diversity, the genetic diversity of this, whether these populations are interbreeding. So when they interbreed, it causes a lot of problems and brings deformation in the progenies, and also some of them leads to death. So if we can study these, we can know how we need to manage these populations. And why we are interested in the Arabian ghazal, it's part of the ecosystem, and it's an interesting animal that would attract for tourism as well. So this, whatever we are doing here, could be applied to all the wild species. And a lot of the studies here have shown that many of our species are breeding within themselves. So in management, we need to bring in some from different areas to ensure that we don't have problems with inbreeding. It's the same as humans. When we intermarry a lot, there's diseases and genetic problems that can occur. So we completed this project, and we're going to phase 2 of the project. The second project we're working on is the conservation. We're developing a strategy for how to conserve the domesticated animals of Oman, and what are the uses of this domesticated species. We had a good several workshops to gather information and see what is the status of domesticated animals in Oman, and what would be the use in the market for these resources. We are also working on a project on arthropods, which are insects. And again, surprising when we tell people that we are working on insects. Insects are a very important component of the ecosystem, especially in pollination and also in other uses. I know around the world, people are talking about insect burgers and so on, which is not something that people can relate to at now, but actually insect protein is very well known to be a very high protein. But we are working on the sense of looking at what are these insects that we have, what effects do they have on our agriculture, and how can we use some of these insects to control? Because when you look at it, the insects have to survive, so they develop mechanisms of controlling pathogens, bacteria, and so on. So we can use those mechanisms to control and use in agriculture to diseases and pests. We are also working on another project which is the characterization of Omani sheep. And why we want to do this is because we believe that in some of the Omani sheep, they carry genes that allow them to produce multiple babies. And again, for the meat industry, this is really something that would be key in increasing productivity. So we have a project now working on to find this Borula gene, which is responsible for allowing the sheep to produce multiple genes. If you can identify it, we have a native species that people really admire and adore and would pay a lot to acquire the local native species. Now add to that something that can give you multiple babies and increase the income stream of farmers. So this is one project we're working on and trying to identify that gene. We gather a lot of data on these resources because the data it gives us information gives us knowledge, and also contributes to the economy. So we've established a database which carries information about all these animal genetic resources that we have in Oman. As I said, the data is compiled in the databases and covers many different species, both domesticated and wild species. We have another project that we're working on, which is to establish a gene bank. Why do we need a gene bank? The gene bank is mainly to preserve what we have as we know as our elite species. For example, if you look at the horses, we have the horses that compete in races, and some of them are aging, and we want to preserve some of these genetic makeup of this. So we collect semen from the horses and preserve them in cryobanks, which are mainly at minus 196 degrees Celsius, and we're able to use them in the future. So if you have a very good horse that's always weaning, we can maintain this breed and keep it for a longer time. Similarly, with our cattle and breeds, we can preserve those. So we are now establishing this gene bank. Another project we are working on is the phytogenetic and phenotypic and genotypic characteristics of our wild rabbits. We see that a lot of them are starting to disappear. Again, this is going back to the wild species. And we want to know where they are, what they're located, what are the genetic makeups of this to maintain the ecosystem of the animal species. So as I say that in the animal sector, we have many opportunities. I cannot touch upon all of them right now, but just to mention some, like when we talk about insects, even in medicines, they're used. I know when we had a visit in China and we visited one of the centers there, and they showed us some worms and told me that 1 kilo of that worm would cost $10,000. And to my surprise, like, why would that be so important? Because they say it is very good in curing cancer, and it's obtained from the Himalayan mountains. So the markets are available for different kinds. We just have to think out of the box and create these new businesses. And also the sheep, I mean, could be used for commercial use in terms of meat and food security. I'll now move to the marine sector. Again, very interesting area where we talk about this different species that we've worked on. Some of the projects we've worked on are diatoms, and we're looking at diatom communities. We've seen that we've collected about 54 diatom species, and these diatoms have been new records for Oman. Why we are interested in diatom species? Because of nanotechnology. They're such minute creatures that we could mimic the way they operate. We could mimic them in terms of creating nanoparticles or nanotechnology to maybe move medicines around the body and so on. So we are glad to have recorded new types of diatoms. We do constant collection of marine genetic resources. We have divers, certified divers in our team that go and collect marine species, again, for research purposes and for looking at the biochemical properties that are in these marine species. Again, we receive a lot of donations from scientists who are going out of the country and want to leave their specimens in the gene bank. We working again with our collaborators on the soft corals. Again, we have a wealth of resources in our ocean, and the potential of them in terms of medicines, cosmetics is really huge. In soft corals, we were interested in looking at the bioactive compounds of soft corals and looking at its activity against cancer. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, you see that we tested it, we extracted some extracts from the corals and we tested it against cancer cells. And some of them are showing really good activity in terms of decreasing the cancer activity and destroying cancer cells. So again, this is just one type of sponge we're looking at. Now look at the multitude of species that are available in the ocean. The issue with the marine species is that they have an ability to defend themselves. And by defending themselves, they are producing some chemicals. And this is what we are interested in finding out. So a lot of research is finding out the foundation of what are the potentials of this. Once we have this information, it's available for people who are interested in maybe in pursuing pharmaceutical companies or in beauty and cosmetic industry as well, and some of them in the food industry. We have another project that we are working on, and again, very important topic, which is microgreen algae. And the green algae, we have been able to collect about 10 species of microgreen algae, and they're known. Algae, I don't have to speak much about it, but it's known for biofuel, protein content. They're very high lipid content. So again, they're good for supplements, food supplements, and so on. So all these activities we are doing, we're trying to scale it up and find out what are the potential compounds that are available in our species, the Omani native species, because around the world, many of them have been patented, many of them have already been produced new products. But if we explore our world and we find new types, they're all new. Most of them will be novel as well. So the potential of getting new products is really huge there as well. The new project that we're working now on is marine sponges. There's so much information on marine sponges around the world. There are thousands of products produced on marine sponges in the world, but unfortunately in Oman, there's not much work that has been done on the native Omani sponges. I always say that, mashallah, in Oman, we are blessed that anything you touch turns to gold, because any of these that we explore, we're definitely going to find new novel compounds that could be used in any new products and commercial products. So we're working on sponges as well. We, again, as I said, we gather a lot of data on marine species, and we maintain the data in our databases, and it's available to all researchers. The potentials of the marine world, if I just speak a little bit about it, is that I mentioned that microgreen algae, that we use them for proteins, vitamins, minerals, and also seaweeds are important for the pharmaceutical and cosmetic industry. So our work, we see, is the basic foundation. We find out what it is, what is the value of this, and then we hope somebody will take it on and develop it into a full-fledged business that is very profitable. Sponges, there are 5,000 different types of natural products already reported from sponges, but nothing has been done about the Omani native sponges as well. I'll move to the microbial world and talk a little bit about what we've done in the microbes and what is the potential of the microbial species. We have a collection within the University of Nizwa of fungi from about 1,828 strains of fungi. Why we're interested in fungi? Fungi, they're the sources of many of our antibiotics, and they're sources of many medicines. They're sources of controls for other bacteria, fungi, viruses, and so on. They could come from the fungi. So we have a collection that we are now characterizing and trying to identify what is the potential value of all these fungi. And I might say these fungi were collected from agricultural areas. So all of them are coming from agricultural areas. Some of them are going to be beneficial. Some of them are going to be harmful. So we are trying to understand the nature of these fungi that we've collected. Then other project that really exciting is macrofungi, which is the mushrooms. And we've done a collection mission in the FAR where we collected about 84 types of mushrooms in just one collection mission. There are many more there that need to be explored. From those 84, we found that 11 types are new, have not been reported before. So you can imagine the excitement of trying to find out what bioactive compounds or novel compounds these mushrooms carry in them. It's really exciting. Going back to edible mushrooms, I mean, edible mushrooms, we all enjoy mushrooms. We know the benefits, the medicinal benefits of mushrooms. Now we have native mushrooms that need to be explored and looked at, and seeing where the commercial opportunities could come from mushrooms as well. We are now developing a database of bacteria and fungi, and we hope to have a collection of bacteria as well. So all these, we look at it as an opportunity, because it's either, if it's harming us, it has a mechanism for defending. If it's not harming us, it has a mechanism for protecting. So this is how we look at it in terms of these resources that we have in Oman. We try to explore under those eyeglasses, wearing those eyeglasses. So fungi, we know they're important for pharmaceutical industry. They're important in agriculture, as I mentioned. We have 69,000 microfungi species around the world. We only have described 10,000 species. So there's so many more out there to be explored and potential benefits from them to come. We also know that they are important for food and medicinal industries. So huge potential there. Finally, I'll talk a little bit about our plant sector, which is one of our biggest sectors, and I think it has the most opportunity for commercialization and easy for us to relate to. So the plant sector, we have activities on, we have identified what types of plants we have in Oman, and under that classification, we see that we have about 1,400 species of Oman that have been recorded of plants in Oman. And of those, 109 are crop species, 43 land races, 700 are crop wild relatives, 448 medicinal plants, 184 are forestry, and 285 ornamentals. Again, looking at this, all these have potential benefits and potential commercial opportunities. Just looking at the medicinal plants, about 448 species in those, many medicines are reported around the world, or herbal medicines are reported around the world on the use of medicines. Some native to us are already being used, explored, utilized outside in the world. Frankincense is one of them. If you look at frankincense, there's a huge market of frankincense outside Oman. What is happening right now is we are producing frankincense. We are selling it at very low prices in terms as raw materials, and then value is added outside of Oman. And I know many products there produce essential oils. They use in cancer treatment and producing of compounds from the frankincense itself. So all that has potential to be done here, and the research capacity is available in Oman to be able to do some of this work here. Crop wild relatives are important because they are the relatives of what we are used to having as food. So la samahallah, something happens to our food system or our food species, we have to go back to the wild. And in the wild, they've been able to survive diseases and pests. So we have to go back and use those wild to cross with our species that we are used to have as our food today. If you look at crop, we are only used to maybe 5 or 10 species of crops that we use regularly as food. We have 109 were used before, and they have potential for high protein, high nutrition that could be explored as well. We have developed a strategy for the conservation and use of Oman's socioeconomic plant species. And in that strategy, we've listed all the plants that are available there and categorized them into the categories I just mentioned. We also established a gene bank in the University of Nizwa, and the purpose of the gene bank, why establish a gene bank, is because, as you know, a lot of these genetic resources are disappearing. To be able to play our role, we have to go out on collection missions, collect some of these seeds, and bring them back and put them in the gene bank. Why we put them in the gene bank? Because it's to keep them for long-term storage. We need to use them for research to understand what we have and what are the potential of these resources. And we also want to keep them so that they can be available for future generations. If something happens and some of these resources are eradicated, we can go back to the gene bank, take the seeds and reintroduce them back to their habitats again. So we've done that. We also have a collection of wheat accessions and barley accessions, which are stored in the gene bank. We have other species that are also stored now in the gene bank based on our collection missions. We have a banana field gene bank that we're working with Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. And with the banana field gene bank, we are looking at banana varieties. So we've collected about 127 accessions of different types of bananas. And banana is an interesting one because we tend to see that some of our bananas are very tolerant to very serious diseases. If you look at the banana industry, it's affected by black sigatoka or Panama disease, and it's really devastating the banana industry. Alhamdulillah, some of our species are tolerant to those kind of diseases. In fact, there was one that was showed real high tolerance and was taken by Kassel University in Germany to study. And they've been exploring this banana variety, and it shows complete tolerance to these diseases. So there's a lot of interest from the banana industry in some of our varieties. Medicinal plants and aromatic plants, our team is constantly out in the fields collecting these medicinal plants. And as I said, some of these go into the gene bank, some of them go directly into research projects to study the potential benefits of some of our medicinal plants. We have our database, which we put all this data in, and it's available on our website. And this data carries data on all the 1,400 species of Oman, any data that we've recorded, any historical data. We did extensive literature search to find out any information on the plants of Oman, and all that data has been captured and stored in our databases. We also put data of what we have now. So for example, in the gene bank, it's available to anybody who's interested in seeds. You can request seeds of native Omani seeds from the gene bank, and of course we give you a small amount, but then you can multiply it and use it to increase. I think the more we support this the gene banks and the circulation of seeds, we support the conservation of them as well. Some of the potential species that we've identified, Caparis. This is an important source used for food and medicine. We found lavender, which is an indigenous lavender species here in Oman. And again, lavender is well known for its medicinal properties and the essential oil market as well. The Caparis itself is used for food. It's been used for fuel, for feeder, for medicine, and for so many different types of uses. And already we have products in the market, but not us globally. When we have a native one that needs to be cultivated and made into a commercial product that could be utilized. Lavender, again, the opportunity for lavender in terms of different cosmetics and the beauty industry is also quite huge. Seed production, I'll come back to this again because we feel the need and the gap in having seed companies here in Oman that cater to native seeds. Native seeds are important. Why? Because they have adapted to our conditions, and they can tolerate the diseases, they can tolerate drought, they can tolerate the heat. So we would love to see some seed companies coming up and working on with some of these species of Omani native plants and producing seeds. Just going back to the seeds, the farmers tend to go and buy hybrid seeds now because they don't see a market for it. But once we create a market for this and able to produce new commercial opportunities, definitely the farmers will be producing this. And in that time, they're also helping us in the conservation of our native species. A lot of people are interested in our native species because they've tolerated to drought and heat. So we have a lot of interest from outside people wanting to invest in our genetic resources. And those are the 4 sectors that we've worked on, and I've touched a little bit about the species that we have, and I cannot do it all in 45 minutes. There's so much to be said about most of our resources in Oman, but just give you a glimpse of what is out there and what opportunities could be explored. We are always keen to do the research and make sure these things are available for people to exploit sustainably. I'll just touch a little bit about on some of our other activities that we're doing. We have a lot of activities on raising awareness on genetic resources. So for example, the Treasures of Oman is an exhibition. It's a mobile exhibition that we took around Oman, and now we're taking to schools where we talk to children and get them interested in genetic resources, because they will be the future ambassadors of making sure that we preserve these resources for our environment and for our national economy as well. We have Science Cafe. The Science Cafe is an activity that we do. It's an informal gathering where we invite a speaker to talk about these resources and what is the potential use. Now, our emphasis has been a lot on the commercial use of our genetic resources. Manafa is another program that we've initiated, and mainly this is to encourage the innovators to come up with new ideas of using these resources, how they can use these resources to come up with new products and develop prototypes and establish companies. The ultimate goal is for them to establish companies and create jobs for others as well. So the Manafa program has been running for 3 years now, but since 2019, it has been used, it is a full-fledged program. And in 2019, we had many applicants. We had about 135 people applied for this competition. And we ended up selecting 4 teams. Due to resources, we were only able to select 4 teams. Those 4 teams are then taken into incubation in Sultan Qaboos University, and they develop their ideas. And from their ideas, we put them in an accelerator. And fortunately, some of them, like one of them of the 2020, has already gone into the market. They're producing this aquaponics, fish and plant units that can be used in the house. And many of them are working on medicinal species. Some of them are working on detergents from plants. Some of them are working on purifying water, filters, and so on. So a lot of good ideas have come up. Like Palm DF is working on date palm waste to form MDF wood for furniture and so on. So we've seen a lot of creativity from these teams. And this year's team is focusing on the initiative by the Environment Authority, funded along with PDO, on the 10 million plant trees. So they face a lot of challenges on how to plant these plants for water shortages and all this. So we said, why not make an opportunity for young minds to come in and look at these challenges and tell us what can they do? Because once they produce a product, they have a market with the Environment Authority, and also they can have uses of those plants that are going to be planted. Another market, which would be the world market, open to them in terms of commercialization. So we're hoping to have by now in the end of this month to close the registration and then screen and put them through the 48 hours of competition to develop their prototypes. We'll select the 5 teams, which will be taken through the chain to hopefully have some successful companies at the end. And this is also funded by PDO and OMIFCO. Finally, I'll end with something that we are really keen to see come to life soon, the Oman Life Sciences Center. This was something we've been working on for a very long time, but unfortunately with the financial crisis, we had to stop. And the idea of the Oman Life Sciences Center is that it would host the center and all the genetic resource facilities that we need to do the research work and to be able to produce these products that could have commercial benefits. But not only that, because of the financial crisis, we now changed our approach and said, why don't we create an investment opportunity that would allow an investor to take on this project and at the same time develop our facility as well. We have 2 lands that have been allocated in Sana'a and Wadi Al-Abyad, which is next to the expressway. And we developed a feasibility study for this. I wanted to show a video, but I don't think it will show. But the idea behind this is that we would have a full-fledged investment opportunity that would include several projects tied to our gene bank. So everything would be related to the DNA of our work. Even the architecture, the engineering, the building material, the landscaping, the focus we put on people, the tools of discovery and learning would all be in line with what we do. If I can just talk a little bit about those activities, we have the part of that investment is the Oman Animal and Plant Genetic Resource Center, which is Mawarid. We'll have the facilities there, the labs, the greenhouses, and all the necessary units we need to do the research work. Next, alongside that, the other commercial opportunities, like an international school of science and technology. I think it's really ideal that the School of Science and Technology be close to us because we are dealing with nature, we're dealing with genetic resources and science in itself. So they get live involvement with researchers close by. We also have proposed an academy for teaching teachers with science and technology. So an academy that would train them as teachers to become, to be able to teach in those School of Science and Technology. And another one project is an academy for teachers who could be educators for children with special needs, because we wanted them to opportunity for them to be available, to be trained, well trained, to be able to give an opportunity to children with special needs so they can see that they have everything open to them. They also can explore nature and be able to utilize nature. And we also would have a discovery center as a proposal for children with special needs. So they get to go in, touch the animals, touch the marine species, work with those, and really work on their senses of exploration as well. Another project we propose on that land is an all-water park, which would be accessible to all children, even children with special needs who could access this, again, tying back to our marine resources. And one other center would be the Center for Neuro Recovery and Rehabilitation. We believe that the need for this is there. We work with horses, we work with animals, and horses have been used in therapy. And we think that being close to us, also that adds value to this Center for Neuro Recovery and Rehabilitation. And the final part of the full project is to have an eco-heritage resort, meaning that it would tap upon the natural resources of Oman, tap on the landscape of Oman, something that that fits into the landscape of the existing landscape, the animals, the marine species that are there in the little oasis that they would have in the eco resort would all be something that could be benefited from the genetic resource center. So we've been looking for investors for this project. The feasibility has been completed, and we are really keen to explore investment in this so that we can have our facility as well. And also part of this would be an IMAX cinema and a planetarium. The whole project itself in itself is about 37 million, of which 5,000 of that would be part of the developing the center itself and all the necessary facilities needed by the center. I hope I've not taken too much time, but I wanted to give you a glimpse of Oman's genetic resources, our wealth, something that needs to be explored. We are really scratching the surface right now. I'm sure the deeper we go, the more benefits we will uncover in our resources. The more explorations we do, the more new types we will discover, and the opportunities for commercialization and value addition to these resources will increase as well. So I want to really thank you all for giving me this time. I know most of this might be too scientific. I hope I didn't bore you all enough too much, but I hope I was able to put the message across that as researchers, we are building the foundation of new businesses, existing businesses to sustain themselves, protecting our environment and our economy as well. And I thank you all for your time, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Nadiya, for the very interesting and valuable presentation. I think we have learned a lot, and Oman is a treasure itself, and it has a lot of things to be discovered. So we have the first question from His Excellency Khamis Al-Kiyumi.
Yes.
Well, Doctor, thank you very much. I think I agree. Very interesting, very informative. You know, the academic side and the investment side, sometimes that does not go together.
Sure.
We have to make sure that whatever feasibility study you have done, you have pre-approval from the environmental side, because that might be may increase the gestation period. From the day you start the idea till you implement it, maybe take 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, sometimes 10 years. So this is not easy to protect the environment. Fully protection of the environment and thinking business is not easy to balance this kind of thinking. Then I have 2 questions. The first question, do you have any research in how to utilize the mushroom in Dhofar, which is very popular there and is sold by very high prices? Do you have any idea how we can do it commercial, or if there is any research that you have done in this one and have the commercial side? Second question, on the marine side, the sponge. You have any clear idea about the quantity and where, so it can be commercialized? Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. If I just go back to the sponges. Sorry. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And this is the dilemma we face as researchers, because we are living in a world where of exploration, and in an investment side, it's about the return on investment, and it has to be quick for somebody to benefit from it. And we really understand that. Part of that was that we had a consultant, and we were saying that we would try to seek all these approvals as quickly as possible to be able to make it attractive to investors. So I agree, totally agree on that. And that's why maybe we've been taking so long to actually get investment in developing our facility. In terms of mushrooms, this is one project that we started just recently. And we are now at the stage where we've seen the potential of this. We know the benefits of this. And we are now trying to start the research part of cultivating this mushroom. Can it be cultivated? Because most of the mushrooms that are cultivated here in Barca are not native types of mushrooms, but now we were thinking of the native mushroom. So this is on a commercial scale. Can we actually cultivate them? Do we know the methods to cultivate them? And are we able to do that? So one of our research projects that we've requested a grant on that is actually to do that. We're going to choose a few edible mushrooms from the list of mushrooms that we have. And then we are going to characterize those and see which ones we think have potential to actually go to commercial right away, because we need to know how to cultivate them to get them to be scaled up and on a large scale. So this is where we are right now. We are seeking fundings from research, and hopefully we will get the funding to work on that. So it's not ready right now because it needs some preliminary work on the cultivation method, which again, many around the world this has been done. So to get experts and work on it shouldn't be an issue, as much of an issue. Unless some of our species require specific environment, that's what we're going to work on optimizing. That's in terms of...
We will not fund the research, but if you find the quantity and the way of cultivating, we can invest in that.
Okay, and I believe that makes sense from a commercial point of view. Is that you would be interested in the process once it's ready to go into the market? And we've been approached so many times in terms of what do we have for commercial, that's ready for commercial. We had one product that we worked on with a private sector company, which was on dates. And we worked on date seed. I didn't include that in the presentation, but we worked on date seeds. And from that, we were able to produce creams and shampoos and hair oil using date waste. So you can see the potential of that. But that's one of the commercial products that actually is already in the market, the Nawa products. But otherwise, other than that, they're not available. As for sponges, the exact number I cannot give you right now, but I know that we have not explored it. This is one of the first projects that's going to explore the sponges of Oman. So to know the figures of how much we have, once this project is up and running, unfortunately due to Corona, we were not able to go to the field and start the collection of sponges and exploring what sponges we have in Oman. But definitely we think we will discover many species of sponges in Oman.
Al-Fungi.
But Dr. Nadiya, thank you for the presentation. And back to Engineer Khamis' question about the mushroom. Yeah. He chairs the company, the mushroom company, and you are saying that you are waiting for a grant to do the research. Yeah. How much does it cost? What is the grant from the government? And why not mushroom company sponsor such research?
Yeah, we actually, the grant, we're talking about maybe 100,000 riyals, because we're exploring 5 different edible mushrooms. And it takes a lot of work in terms of testing different media, and the cost involved in the research of that. Also bringing an expert who's really an expert in mushrooms who can speed up the process. So in terms of the mushroom factory, we have had some collaborations with them. We've been engaging with them, but they've willingly given us, told us that if we need to use some of their facilities to test the native species, they would be glad to do that. So they've been kind in that aspect. But in terms of research, I don't think we've been able to secure any funds yet in terms of edible mushrooms. But I agree, this is a huge an area that will, if we do succeed, will just explode in terms of the uses of mushrooms, especially edible mushrooms.
Abu Azam, do you have any?
أبو عبد الله ساعدنا في موضوع الفقع. الفقع Chinese once told me that they can cultivate it, and also that one is having a very, very big value in the region in terms of culture, in terms of taste, and in terms of accepting. So if we can cultivate that in Oman, in any place, that will be very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all those are amongst the list of species that we have. I told you we got about 84 species that we collected in the FAR. And even when they were in the market, we went and collected some from the market itself. So amongst those, we are looking at the ones that are already known in the FAR to be edible mushrooms. And those are the ones that we want to focus on in terms of cultivating them. So we hopefully that maybe soon we should have funds and be able to run with that project and come up with ways of cultivating edible mushrooms, inshallah.
Great, thank you very much. Dr. Talal, would you like to, do you have any observation or question that you would like to raise? Dr. Talal? Okay, and we take a question from Mr. Simon.
Yes, thank you very much.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Doctor. It's good from time to time, even for aged people like myself, to go back to university and talk research and meet fantastic words, big words. But in the end, these words, they come to nature, and we think, commercial ourselves, we think development. Like His Excellency Khamis said, there is a gap between various things. Now, so to understand the overall landscape, here we are, we have a ministry, one or two, but let's say the major one, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, who should be theoretically extremely interested in the work you are doing.
Yes.
And then on the side, we have Sultan Qaboos University primarily, your center, who is doing lots of research, characterization, valuation, identifying opportunities. And in a haphazard way, we have in the market projects that deal with this: plant, animal, microbes, marine. Let me name some. Of course, we have the successful one, which is Excellency Khamis is the chairman of, which is the mushroom project.
Sure.
You have the Mazoon project, which deals with red meat, with milk, with. You have the Botanical Gardens, on which we spend, many millions.
250.
You have a factory in Dukum that makes castor oil. And to the best of my knowledge, a plant was identified in Oman that can produce the seed for castor oil. You see, we have the 1 million palm tree projects, of course.
Yeah.
My question is two things to us. Where is the coordination between all these guys? I think it's inexistent.
Yes.
That's one. It's very, very shy, very mediocre. That's one. So I would like your comment on coordination, and who should be coordinating and what and why.
Yes.
And the second one, awareness. One of your mission is awareness, and this session is a very good example of what you are doing. You are making us aware of this nature resort. Now, why don't we have on TV a program to make everyone? And the subject you are dealing with interests, I think, about 98% of the Omanis. You see, 50 years ago, this would have been the topic, with oil, of course. Now it is still intrinsically, because that's a word you used in, in the title, or implicitly, we are all still interested.
Yeah.
So the campaign, the awareness campaign, I mean, for you as an individual on a Saturday, doctor, to leave your family and come and talk to us is really grand, but is it enough?
Yes.
And finally, I want to propose something to you. So 2 questions and a proposal. You see, we means the country, PDO and some investors. We have a big project in Nimr, and a similar one is going ahead in Rima. In Nimr, we treat about 175,000 cubic meter of water every day. Every day we have in that spot in the desert available 170,000 cubic meter. Just to put things in perspective, the whole desalination plant that we produce in Oman is about 1 million. So here you are, we are talking about 170. And around that facility, there is 30 million square meters of land. Okay, the water is a little bit brackish. And you know, I mean, the cooperation should be there to produce. We try to produce cotton, medicinal algae, jojoba. I think the coordination between this company and your research should be established. I think the more the private sector has go into university, and university has go out to our shops and to our factories. Then ideas, like His Excellency Khamis said, you know, then we can invest.
Yeah.
So 2 questions and 1 proposal. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think what you said is very valid in terms of the coordination. I think this was one of our challenges, especially when we established the center. Also, we did a search and to find out who's working on genetic resources. And there are many different key players, and everybody's doing their work and doing in silo. So the coordination among, we tried to be as a center that would try to bring people together in terms of communication, in terms of our research activities. So we had the scientific committees that would bring people from all the different stakeholders and would guide the center in terms of areas of work. But again, I think the mixture of industry and academia was not well balanced. Maybe that would be one of our flaws. And we were not involving the industry as much because we were so confined in our research. But I think once the financial crisis did come up, we saw that, okay, now this is not the way we're going to operate. We need to operate with private sectors. So we have approached some of the private sectors. For example, if I say the wheat project, we've repatriated seeds from America, from different gene banks around the world that collected from Oman. And we characterize those wheat varieties. Now, our one discussion was to discuss with the wheat companies here, if we want to look at these wheat varieties and see what are the properties for pasta, for bread, and so on, to look at that. So our approach now is changing. We're approaching more the industry side and looking at how we can work together. In terms of Ministry of Agriculture being one of the authorities and Environment Authority before Mecca, we have approached Ministry of Agriculture and we're working very closely with them. In fact, the project I mentioned to you of mushrooms and all this, we approached Ministry of Agriculture for that. And they're very keen, interested in many of our projects. It's just that for us, resources are limited. We're not able to explore that much, but we know there's a gap between us as researchers and industry, and we're trying to bridge that gap right now.
That's why we have a ministry.
Yes, yes. So we are really trying to bridge that gap and talk with Mazoon. We've signed an agreement with the OFIC. We've signed an agreement of collaboration, and we're looking at ways where we can enrich them in terms of adding value to what they already have, and so on. So we work closely with them. But in terms of financial resources, I don't think maybe we have the skills to attract those financial resources to do the research, because it's very difficult for somebody to invest money in something that they don't see an outcome immediately. It's mainly data that's coming out, information, but very valuable information. In terms of awareness, we tried to capture the young children. We tried to go talk to the public, but again, we really know that our marketing and is very weak. We need to strengthen our marketing campaigns to support, because we have many activities, many initiatives that are not known, which somebody, like now you mentioned to me a very good proposal with the Nimr project. And it's something that we have to talk to them and see. We have seeds, we have native Omani plants that could be grown there. And we know some of them, the commercial opportunities of those. But with the commercial opportunities, we need to be able to cultivate them. We cannot go to the wild and keep collecting from the wild. So to cultivate, we need these vast areas of land that will allow us to try some of these varieties. Like you mentioned, castor oil, there are native species that are related to some of the commercial species that are there. But I think the communication and the linkage, and it's meetings like this that opens my eyes also to know what is out there and where we can go. So thank you very much for that. But I agree, we will be approaching more of the industry now. We've actually developed a platform now that we are going to launch soon, which is supposed to bridge that gap, to bring the industry and us as academia in one platform to be able to communicate. Industry can give us their challenges. We can present our ideas on that platform. So I hope the communication will be more. The TV program is very interesting, and I hope something like that can materialize, because it's interesting for the children, for their studies, even in the education system as well. It will be very beneficial. So thank you for those proposals, and I agree. We're scouting now for opportunities to meet with the private sector.
Excellent. Just to highlight something very important, which my partner, I cite his name for the fourth time today, His Excellency Khamis. He warned you about a very practical thing to get a project going, which is the pre-approval.
I agree.
You know, another big gap is not only aware, it's how to get approval to plant, how to get plant. Anyway, just to keep it in mind. Thank you very much. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simon. Dr. Nadiya. I'll take another question from Mr. Khalil Al-Bouchi. Mr. Khalil, would you still like to raise your question?
Yes, please. Thank you, Reham. And very interesting topic, Dr. Nadiya.
Thank you.
Today. I know here we're talking about commercialization of every opportunity can be commercialized and making money out of it, which is ultimately tahsil hasil for all the research. But what I am pleasantly surprised is which will help this, what you are doing is to build a scientific community in Oman.
Yes.
To make Oman a science mindset, to bring the research mindset into the country. So that is also very important. Commercialization everything will end up in selling some product and all that. But with this mindset, I think it is also very, very important. I was also happy to see one of the very few presentations that almost on every slide you said who is the collaborator, who is your partners, which is important. And I saw a few universities, Sharqiya and PU, of course, it is there. So that was also a very good thing. But how students are involved. I saw at the very end of the slides that there are some competitions on this. So that is, I think, answers part of the question. But do we have people in the pipeline? I think in Oman, well, you mentioned plants, animals, marine, and microbes and stuff. But as far as I know or heard about, there are hundreds, probably 200, 300 genetic related diseases in Oman. Probably to humans, maybe, or maybe humans and plants and all that, I'm not sure. But that is a significant number. And we know that we have genetic problems in the families and all that. So that is also where the scientific approach and the research mindset helps. Sometimes you make money by not spending money. For example, health as a government, if we spend on the health, so we're making money. So it helps also from that side. Do we have enough students in the higher education in the pipeline to pursue this line, this biodiversity studying or of this science, biological science in general. The other question is, what is the potential of using biotechnology in all this, the work you are doing?
Thank you very much. Very interesting questions, and really, you touched on something very key, which is the mindset. I think the mindset is key in terms of we need to have a paradigm shift in terms of what we see research as. It's a tool. We see it as a tool for coming up with these new ideas, new innovations, and so on. Unfortunately, we're still trying to build that culture of research in Oman. It's not yet full-fledged. I remember with my studies when I was in the University of Minnesota, sometimes we would be there till 4 in the morning, which is not a culture that you would see right here. Maybe not in the defense of the students, the infrastructure is not there. So somebody doesn't feel secure to go at night and work in the labs and so on and so on. So the research culture is not there. But believe me, the students that are coming out now are very well equipped in terms of scientific research. They have the drive, they have the need for this research, but unfortunately the opportunities, they find small opportunities of getting to use the knowledge that they have. So we need to be able to recruit more of these students or those who already have completed and are sitting at home with this knowledge in their minds that they could be used in terms of exploration and research. In terms of biotechnology, all our work is related to biotechnology. So we are doing a lot of molecular work, and we are going into these plants and animals at the genetic level. We are going down into the gene level and understanding, what does this gene do? How can I look for a variety, or maybe cross these two varieties to increase the yield of this plant, or increase the protein content of this animal, or so on. That's where we work at that level. We work at the gene levels and looking at the molecular level, and biotechnology is one key tool that we use. You're very right. If we can, we talk about budgets, let's say for health, and we can contribute in that, in making sure that we provide nutritious food. We are using some of our own medicinal plants as herbal treatments, of course, after approval from the Ministry of Health and getting all the appropriate approvals. That also adds to reducing the budget of the health that we are now consuming. So if we work together, we can find ways to use what is already available to us in nature that could benefit us in different areas that we cannot see right now, because genetic resources touches everything. You talk about tourism, you talk about medicine, you talk about education, you talk about, in every area, biodiversity is key, it plays a role in there. So it touches in all areas. So you're very right. We need to get more people involved. They are there, the minds are there, they're already there. I mean, my team, I'm blessed with the team I have of the young scientists that are working with me, very dedicated, very hardworking. And they are also some coming out through the pipeline. We are tapping into young children. We go to schools, we talk to them about biodiversity. And it's just amazing to see these little kids' minds and eyes open up when they see an insect or they see something and they learn something new from it. So we have potential there to start from KG and going all the way up to prepare them to come in and be able to capitalize on these resources, either for environment, society, or for the economy. They are there, they're coming in the pipeline. We are trying our best to get them interested in these areas, but I think we still need to do a better job in terms of marketing these resources and getting people to know more about it.
I may just quickly comment. I saw a documentary 2 days ago about horse races, Sibaq al-Qudra, this 80 kilometers, 120 kilometers. And before they start, they check the DNA and the genes of the horse and the al-Faris, the horse rider.
Yeah.
And the guy was surprised. He said, why you are doing this? He said, we want to check your genes. Can you, or the horse, can it take استحمل يعني 80 kilometers, 120 kilometers? So everything is related, as you said.
It is. It is. In fact, yes, you're right. I mean, to study the genes gives you the It's like you're looking for a needle in a haystack, and you want to make sure that your chances are much good in getting that needle. So you look at the genetic level, and you can screen out some and say, "This definitely they will not be in the pool of species that we think we should be working on." So once you identify those, then you look at the genes of that and see which ones are expressing more than the others. So you're putting science into your decision making in terms of which horses you think will have potential for winning in the future. And that's not only for horses, for anything.
Also for our future Olympic participants.
Unfortunately, we don't deal with humans. We don't deal with humans.
They should be tested before sending them to
horses.
It's true. So there was a question on humans, but human health, we don't deal with human. We don't consider human as genetic resources, although we all share the same DNA. From a human to a bacteria, we all carry the same type of DNA. So whatever tools or technology we use for plants, animals, marine, and microbe is applied to humans as well, but it's not within our mandate. Yeah. But we can target the diseases of humans by studying our species that can be used to target those diseases, like diabetes and so on. There are plants that we know have potential for curing or helping in diabetes, cancer, and so on. And we are studying those now.
Khalil, Omanis are known for broom flying, not running.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khalil. Back again to His Excellency Khamis Al-Kyoumi.
Thank you, Reham. You should not undermine Minister of Environment approvals. It can cost a lot of money to get approval based on the standard, which sometimes quite complicated.
Okay.
So, and then also at the same time, you should not depend on the advisors or consultant. I think it's something official. You have to go and sit with them and get preliminary understanding to what you are doing.
Yes.
This is the only way to make your path easier. Otherwise, none of these studies in marine side it can be used. Anything in the nature in Oman it can be used. It's not easy. Second thing, we have done a study long time back. I think, if not mistaken, 1990, on the medical herbs in Oman. And in that study, I think it lays somewhere there in the Ministry of Commerce. It was a long time back. I don't know if it's still available, but maybe you have far past that one. You have more information now. So this was indicating that there is a 40 expensive medical herbs available in Salalah, Mufar itself. The last one, I'd like just to know more about what you mentioned in some of the herbs or medical extract can be used in nanotechnology. If you just elaborate on that one. Thank you.
Yes, in terms of medicinal herbs, it's really good. I would love to see the report that you have. Maybe it could be something that we've not seen. Or the Ministry of Commerce. Okay, so we could explore that, but definitely they are of potential benefit, the medicinal herbs. But going back to Environment Authority approval, you're very right, and we are trying to seek those approvals, and I know it will take some time, but the consultant was just mainly to test the waters and see whether it was acceptable, but definitely that work has to be done by us, and we're looking into that. We understand the nature of that taking time. In terms of approvals for using genetic resources, we as a center, we always get approval from the Environment Authority to go on collection missions. So once we've collected that, it's an advantage because then we can use those and multiply them, cultivate them, which will allow somebody to use it for commercial value, because you cannot go back to nature and keep taking that. So we could play an intermediary role there in making sure that these resources are available and multiplied to the quantity needed for commercial opportunities. In terms of nanotechnology, it was mainly because of the diatoms. The diatoms are very minute molecule creatures that are of nano size. So many of the researchers are looking at studying these diatoms to understand how they operate, how they move, and how they can be used as to send information within a body or something, some medicines, how they can use the information gained from these nano creatures to transfer medicines to target specific areas, specific genes. So not in the extract, the plant extracts, but mainly in these particles, the nanoparticles themselves. And we are studying the diatoms for that reason as well, because they are tiny particles. If we can target specific genes, when we know that a gene is responsible for causing a disease and we can target a specific gene, then using the gene therapy, we're able to reverse the effect of that defective gene using nanotechnology.
Thank you
I
very much.
hope I answered that. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll take another question from Engineer Saleh Al-Shamfari. Are you with us? Engineer Saleh?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Surah.
It's
Thank you
always nice to hear your voice. It makes me feel at ease. Yeah, being we've worked, have a good relationship before.
Yes, I'm coming back, Dr. Nadiya, as an advisory board member. Don't discount me.
Sure. You're definitely being one of the steering committee members, inshallah. We benefited a lot from you.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for being here. I'm quite delighted to see you speaking about the achievement. In fact, Mawarid, OAPGRC, have done a great job. For those who never know, myself, I've been in the steering committee for about 10 years now. Yeah. And I think the work have been done quite massive. What is lacking is a kind of publicity that is required. I think what we need to do is to shed light, to focus on the achievement and create a linkage between this research and collection with the R&D ecosystem in Oman. Luckily speaking, currently OFIC have started the food technopark, yes, where biotechnology is one of the pillars, and we have until today have employed three PhD women. The whole ecosystem is run by women now, or researchers from internationally renowned universities. And one, I think, of the reasons why I want to speak is to make sure that connection is there. In fact, you have also hosted them. You have Dr. Kawthar Al-Balushi next door to you.
Yes.
And Dr. Ghada and Dr. Aliya, they're all there. And I think what is important now is to create a roadmap, Dr. Nadiya, to create a roadmap where we can commercialize all these activities. And let me give you an example. You have opened my eyes to the fact that we have more than 30 mushroom species in Oman. And 5 or 6 of them are edible. And that is why I've sent you that American delegation a couple of days ago. Yeah. And the reason is we want to see how we can cultivate some of these, mushrooms, mycelium, and others, to commercialize them, to produce them locally, and to commercialize them, given the fact that a lot of medicines and anti-cancer extracts can come from these resources, be it mushrooms, be it herbs, be it lichens, be it marine species, and so on. And I think one of the major difficulties that we're facing, while we have some good maturity in the food ecosystem, when it comes to medicine and nutraceuticals, we are lagging behind. And I would like really to hear you commenting on this. Thank you, Dr. Nadiya.
Yes, thank you very much, Engineer Saleh. Yes, what you rightly said, yes, we did meet with the company yesterday, day before yesterday, and we had a very good discussion. In terms of pharmaceutical, I think pharmaceutical is an area that we have not explored at all, and the potential of that is great. Why I say that, because many of our species are, as I said, some of our species are endemic to the Sultanate. You look at aloe vera. Aloe vera is known to produce so many different types of products. We have an aloe vera that's endemic to the far. Aloe vera, the forensis, is endemic to the far, and with so much sadness, I say that we have not explored the pharmaceutical industry in that. And there are new technologies that will allow us to really speed up this process of studying pharmaceuticals from our plant species, or animal, marine species, and so on. There is a technology called high throughput screening, which can screen thousands and thousands of different compounds in the plants themselves and be able to give you a library of different compounds from different species of plants. So you have a library of these compounds. Anytime there's a disease, you just screen your library and see what proteins and matches with the protein of the virus, and that speeds up the time of being able to come up with a potential compound that could be used for medicine. So there's a lot to be explored. I think there are a few companies, and there is an initiative now going on to try to look at the pharmaceutical industry, but we would like to see more of the native species being incorporated into the screening process of looking for compounds that are important for medicine. We look forward to hearing from anybody who might know that compounds that they're interested in that we could explore in some of our medicinal plants. If you feel that this compound is important for a specific disease, we can do the basic, based on the resources we have right now, the basic screening to find out whether these compounds are available in some of our plants. Although when we get, I know there's a project that we are discussing now with the University of Nizwa, which is to establish this high throughput screening. And if that is available, that facility, really it will, the industry, pharmaceutical industry will just grow up very much, because we can screen thousands and thousands. And if we put a lot more emphasis on finding the potential of pharmaceutical, I think from the ocean itself, we just have to find a few, and those could be $1 billion industries coming from those. But we need to do the research, we need to do the background, we need to find out what are these compounds, where they are, and what are their potential function that allows it to be able to give us those medicines. So there's a lot of groundwork to be done. We really need support in that. I know it's not very attractive, but it is necessary. Otherwise, we'll be stuck with the same compounds. And once a plant is eradicated, we lost all the information that was available in that plant, which could have been the cure for the next disease that inshallah will not come, but who knows the future. And we need to study these species. Even a bacteria, I must say, even a bacteria, the virus itself, if we have the potential to study those, we are able to prepare ourselves and defend ourselves. We saw COVID-19, how it just brought down the world to a stop, if you can say, because of a simple virus like that. And if we are prepared and we have these libraries of compounds to test, all that research work that took a year to develop and see what kind of compounds would be working, we give ourselves a jump start to start ahead and know which are the likely compounds we need to start working on to identify. I know the world is doing that in the US and the UK, and that's where the medicines come from. Why can't it be Oman? Why can't it be here that we explore this and we open these opportunities? COVID was a very good lesson, I think, for all, because the borders closed. And now we are depending on medicines coming from outside. I attended a workshop on the World Health Organization, and they are now focusing on local production of medicines. Why? Because of this kind of situation. If our borders are closed, inshallah, it doesn't happen. The medicines don't reach us. What do we have? We have our plants, we have our resources. Let's work on those and make sure that we're exploring them enough to see what is the potential in coming up with new medicines. I'm not saying only plants. From plants, we can learn. Nature is a good teacher. We can learn from plants and come up with synthetic. If people don't mind using synthetic, we just need to understand the genetic makeup of the plant and how it operates. We can create that by biotechnology and working with that and come up with, speed up some of the processes. So this is just, I think, something that really touches me. And I don't know how to express it, but I feel like we need to do a lot of researching of what we have here in Oman because it has huge potentials.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nadiya. I take example, if you allow me to comment. Luban, for example, the frankincense is one example. And I want to go back to the mushrooms. I think one of the reasons why we need to look at it as a potential source of wealth even for others is to be able to propagate the local species. The 5-6 local species that we have today are only wild, and they are collected during the monsoon now. So this is a time where you will get one kg for 50 riyals.
Yes.
Given the fact that the mushroom project led by Engineer Khamis Al-Kayoumi was here with us, and that experience of Oman, in fact, I've been talking to the expert that visited you as to look at the Omani mushroom produced locally in Barka by this project as another source for mycelium. And the ability to propagate mushroom here means that we have a great potential to look at the local species. The local species are very expensive here.
Yeah.
But if we are able to propagate it like the rest of the world, I think that's also from food and biofood as another major source. So
Yes.
can we commercially propagate the local species? That's a big question.
Yes, I think it can be done. It's just that we need to start developing, looking at the methodology of actually doing that. And that's one of the projects that we have requested funding, is to go into this edible mushrooms, to look at how we can cultivate them. They are experts outside. We've been communicating with them. They've been talking to us in workshops, and they said that it can be done. It can be easily done. It's just identifying that mushroom. We need an expert to actually really look at the morphology of these mushrooms and identify them. And then we develop the methodology of cultivating them. Remember, we don't have to start from scratch. Many of these things are done in the world outside. We just have to optimize it for our conditions and our environment. So it's something that we could do. If we can do that, believe me, the benefits of having it all year through will be amazing. Yesterday, the American team that we met was, to my surprise, mentioned that the consuming mushrooms every day reduces your chance of cancer by 40%. And I was like, wow. So imagine what we have. What do we have in there that we need to explore?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Dr. Nadiya.
Thank you very much, Engineer Saleh. We'll take the next question from Mr. Haji Adam, then Dr. Talal. Mr. Haji Adam, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Nadiya, for very useful information that you share with us today. To be honest, before I come to this presentation, I was reluctant because the subject sounded a little bit odd to me.
Yes.
And I'm sure there are so many others in the country here who know very little or nothing about your work, what you are doing.
Yeah.
What you have, I think, government is investing maybe a lot of money on your work, and it is a national asset, and it should be shared. My observation here is not only with you, but with also many others. We always talk about companies, that are asking big private sector members to come and invest. I always talk about India, and I was in India. There are big companies, big investors in this sort of things, but they also share this knowledge to the lowest level of the public, the lowest farmers, whether it's with animals or with plants. Or I met somebody who was growing dragon fruit in India and under forced artificial light. And he was exporting to other countries, and just one person, the guy was working in Dubai and then went to India and Pune, established a farm and started growing it. So there will be other people here among the public who will be interested on small scale. Yeah. Okay, big companies, fine. If they have millions, they want to invest, well and good. But there will be other people, I think, who will be very much interested. And because they don't know about it, they do nothing. For example, you kindly mentioned lavender. I have the hobby of distilling plants at home. It's a hobby, and I use lemongrass. And so I was talking with somebody, a guy from Jalan, and he told me we have lavender. I didn't believe him, and I said, this guy doesn't know. Maybe he will bring us hanval and he will think it's lavender. So because this information is not available, nobody knows about it. I think you need to have a marketing team. You guys are, a scientist. You are not good in marketing. Okay,
we accept.
Let's put it this way, because that's your job. Your mindset is different, and you need maybe a team of people to go out. The way I see it, I think it will be nice to go out to the schools, not only to the schools, but it should be also included in our curriculums. We have to teach our children from childhood, the resources and the assets we have in this country.
Yes.
Having said that, now I have a very important question, which is very personal for me. Where do we grow lavender here in Oman? Or where does it grow?
Okay. We thank you very much for those comments, and they're very, very true. And I humbly accept that we are not good in marketing, and I realize that is one of our areas weakness. I must say, first of all, I think it was misunderstood. We're not under Sultan Qaboos University. We're under the Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Innovation. And mashallah, we have a lot of support from Her Excellency Professor Rahma and His Excellency Dr. Saif in terms of getting people to meet with the private sector and all these different organizations. So they're really doing championing that in terms of getting Mawarid to be better known outside. So I really am thankful for that, and they're trying very hard. The thing in terms of small companies, you're very right, and that's what I mentioned, that we need to know more about this. We are trying to we actually collected a list of all the companies that are related in our field, and we are going to map those companies and look at what companies we go with what product, or what information, what data would be interesting to a specific company, and what product we expect that could come out from that. So now we're going to target specific companies. But thank you again for highlighting that, and we will definitely take it very seriously and go and approach small companies as well. The issue with small companies is because our resources are limited, and we don't have that culture of companies supporting R&D. It's not very well developed. It could be developed in the petroleum industry, but in our industry, it's not as much. So it will depend a lot on us having the resources to support that research activity. But we will take that into consideration and move forward with that. As of lavender, our first collection was done here in Al Khonji, somewhere close by in Wadi Al Khonji. We collected a few of the lavender species, one of the lavender species there.
With lavender, Haji, with lavender, please be my guest in Salalah. September is the best time to collect lavender wildly from the mountains of Dhofar. So when you come to Salalah in September, be my guest, and I'll accompany you to collect lavender. It's all over. It's all over the mountains. Yeah. Thanks.
See, this is lavender is a gold mine now in the international market. I bring my lavender through Amazon, and I pay around $50 for a kilogram. Plus the mail, and if you look around, everybody's interested now in lavender. So at least the farmers can start, growing this and not selling only to Oman, but they can sell to the international market.
Yeah.
Thank you, Engineer Saleh. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and this was just one exploration that we did here in Al Khonji, and we were able to find lavender. As Engineer Saleh said, in Dhofar, it's a biodiversity hotspot. A lot of things there to be discovered, and I'm sure the lavender, when we go for collection missions there, we'll find them there as well. So thank you, Engineer Saleh, for bringing that up.
Can I interfere?
Sure.
Yes, I would like to suggest something for you. in order to sponsor the research, I think is if you can find way with the tax department that any amount invested in this area, it can be deducted from the company's taxes.
Okay.
This is done many way in the world.
Okay.
Open-end research to be done by private sector is not an easy game, even in oil exploration.
Yeah.
My second comment is if you like to identify number of products, and then you want to go to a specific company, then you give it a type of exclusive. This type of exclusive will stop you from benefiting from other potential investor. And this is also will narrow down your choices. So I suggest that even if you go for that direction, don't eliminate the other investor whom they can benefit from the information you are doing in that kind of, unless if they pay for the first study.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think very important and very things that we really need to take into consideration. And I will pass this proposal to His Excellency Dr. Saif and Her Excellency Professor Rahma to look at finding a tax break for supporting research, because I think there's a lot that can be done. So I'll pass that proposal to them. And in terms of exclusivity, remember that when we're working with one plant, if, for example, let's take wheat. If we approach one company of wheat, there's 1,000 other things waiting in wheat that could be commercial opportunities. So if you give exclusivity maybe to bread or pasta to this company, you can give it for other fodder in another. So there are many things that can come up for just one species. And one example is aloe vera. We see the products coming out from aloe vera in all over. If you just do a Google search, you see the amount of products that can come out from that. So even that, the opportunities is there. For example, the date palm that I said that we did some beauty products with dates. We are working with the Origo Integrated Project company on the cosmetic side of things, but there's nutrition, there's the supplements, there's food supplements, there's so many different areas that you can work on that it doesn't invade the exclusivity you have with one company. So the potential is really huge in that. And I think with high throughput screening, if we can do that, we'll have hundreds of different opportunities on one species itself. So many different companies could benefit from that. I think that, yeah, those are the two comments. Thank you very much for those.
Thank you very much. Dr. Talal?
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام دكتور.
حياكم الله, and very nice to meet you here and to listen to your presentation. Great learning.
Thank you, Dr. Tal. I must say thank you very much. It's been a while I have not seen you, and again, it's really a pleasure to see you here today.
شكرا جزيلا. Dr. Nadiya, in 2020, يعني in the beginning of 2020, we had Oman entered into the biological conventions agreement, LAGWI.
Yeah.
So there is a royal decree 2020/57, and this is one of the breakthrough in the science diplomacies, and it has international framework, especially in the technology transfers.
Yes.
My question: how in Oman we can benefit from that, since you are specialists on this? And the second point, they have lots of financial mechanisms, like the environmental facility trust fund, which is a great source of financial mechanisms to the biological diversity. Is that something for the Oman market or the Oman scientists can team up to tap into those financial mechanisms?
Yes.
Thank you very much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Talal, for those very interesting questions. Yes, the Nagoya Protocol was a really breakthrough, I think. I've been attending the negotiation meetings of the CBD, Convention of Biological Diversity, and also the International Treaty for Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. And it's been a long time coming. We've been waiting for this Nagoya Protocol to be signed, because it protects us. It protects Oman in terms of our biodiversity, because now anybody wanting to use a native species of Oman will have to sign a bilateral agreement between us and the country to ensure that any commercial opportunities coming out from that species, Oman will benefit from that as well. So this is really an excellent move in that direction. In terms of technology transfer, I think that is something very key, and we need to explore more of that because we have the biodiversity, and the developed countries have the technology. If we can get their technology into Oman and using our native species, believe me, just going back to lavender itself, we are currently doing a biochemical profile of the lavender in Oman, and we're seeing the profile is completely, not completely, but very different from what is outside. So again, people will be very interested in that. So our biodiversities have a lot of uniqueness in them. We've been isolated for a long time. They've developed into new types. And if we bring that technology, it will be really powerful because it will allow us to extract the benefits more and much faster with better equipped information on these resources. So technology transfer is really important, and we have to take advantage of that. In terms of the funding that is available outside, I know previously we tried to apply for funding, even through the international treaty, but we were not able to get funding because Oman is considered a developed country, and we're not eligible for funding from many of this. So we miss out a lot of the funding from international organizations, but I think with some of these funding agencies, there are already some projects ongoing. I think the Green Initiative or something, there's some projects going with the Environment Authority, SQU. So they are there. And again, we need to get ourselves out there and see what are the available opportunities for us to team up with other organizations, not only in Oman, even regional. We can team up with regional organizations and together seek to explore funding sources from international organizations. So yes, Dr. Talal, thank you. And we really are going to try to tap into the technology transfer of the Nagoya Protocol.
إن شاء الله. شكرا دكتور نادية، أتمنى لكم كل التوفيق إن شاء الله.
شكرا، أحسنت، الله يخليك.
شكرا دكتور طلال. Dr. Ahmed Al-Ghafri, do you like to raise any question or comment? Mr. Khamis Al-Blushi.
Thank you, Dr. Nadiya. I have only one question, which is your database available for public, or is it only in a closed circle? And I have a small comment that I wish all our universities should open their doors more. Today, they are like military bases. And thank you very much.
Again, thank you for the question. Yes, some of our databases are available. The plant database is available on our website, and of course, some of the data we have to keep confidential because if there's a potential for patenting, we cannot put it out in the public. But a lot of the basic information is there. And once people screen the database and they find something of their interest, they can always approach us and we can discuss further on how to provide the other data. I think all the other stakeholders also have data with them, but for us in terms of availability, we try to make it available. Being a center that belongs to Oman, we make sure that this data will be available to all researchers, and even if the public who might be gardeners who are interested in doing something with some of these data. In terms of universities, I was in a university before. I was in Sultan Qaboos University. I think it's not, I don't know whether it's they're closing themselves. I think it's just that maybe we don't speak the same language and we don't know how to approach. So I can say maybe it's like, at least for me, finding it difficult to communicate with the industry in terms of what we are doing. We're so bogged down on uncovering these new discoveries and what is happening inside these species that we forget that there's a industrial aspect of it that we need to. So we hope that we can work together with industry very closely. And I think if we start from the beginning with industry, the sense of ownership will be there, and we will start to get more support from industry. So we have to play our part. And please don't feel afraid to approach the universities. I think they're very welcoming. It's just that maybe it's the procedure is not very clear. We're not very clear on how do we approach these investors or the private sector and so on. But we are learning, and I think we're doing a little bit better now. I'm no longer in the university now, so but I still carry that history with me as well. But us as Mawarid, we're very open, very collaborative. We welcome anybody who wants to come in and know more about what we're doing, if it's supporting our research, if it's on a commercial aspect, what we already have on the base, we can discuss further on what could be taken further for commercialization.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Khamis. Back to Mr. Haji Adam.
Thank you, Rehan. I just wanted to ask a little bit more about the lavender. If somebody wants to grow lavender here in the north, you know, who they should contact and get the information?
If they want to, to grow lavender, I think I would say the best bet for now in terms of cultivating lavender would be the Botanical Garden, because they are way ahead in terms of all the wild species of Oman. They're developing methodology for cultivating them, but also there are databases around the world that maybe you could tap into, like Kew Gardens. They have a database of showing how to cultivate some of these species. And Kew Gardens has a lot of Omani native species, so they've developed the mechanism of cultivating that. So that database is available, and they explain the methodology of doing that. We are now in the stage that we want to start now cultivating, but since we don't have our facility yet, we'll be working closely with the Botanical Garden to cultivate lavender, because we know to go to somebody and say, oh, this is commercial potential, they're going to say, where am I going to get these resources? If we have the package that we know how to cultivate it, and you provide if somebody can provide the land to cultivate it, it could be a commercial product that could go into the market very quickly.
And where is this Botanical Garden?
I think now it's moved to, it's under the Ministry of Heritage, if I'm not mistaken. There's been a lot of changes now, but it's in Al Khonji, and maybe somebody else can help with that.
No, yeah, it's Minister وزارة السياحة الآن.
Okay, Ministry of Tourism. Yeah. But it's in Al Khonji, the old Al Khonji there, and before it was under the Diwan of Royal Court Affairs.
But Haji, if you want to go to as a startup or maybe at an incubation level, you can talk to us, Dr. Kawthar Al-Bulushi, the CEO of Food Technopark. She can help designing the startup business until you can commercialize it. There's a possibility. Also Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, the research department, they also can help.
Thank you very much.
So where is the best area to cultivate this one? Is it in the north, in the south, in Batna Coast, in Suhar, Sunaina?
If you want to do it commercially, there are so many species. For example, the European American species that are grown commercially are much longer and bigger in size, and productivity is much higher in terms of the biomass. If you want to go for very native, deep incense quality, then you need to go for the local species. You have to propagate them first, and then be able to commercialize them.
I think
Dr. Nadiya,
this ones are grown between zone 4 and 8, maybe, or 9.
Yeah. So you need to work with the relevant bodies, but Ministry of Agriculture, Botanical Garden, Food Technopark, or Dr. Nadiya's institution. I mean, they're all available. Even SKU willing to help. There's no issue.
Okay. But do you need greenhouses for this, or is it in open land? The Omani species.
If you have a greenhouse, it's more ideal because you're really pampering them. But in the open land, they can. But what you're going to see that we have the wild types, and if you saw the picture, I don't know why I thought I showed it. There are very few leaves on it, so you're going to get very few leaves because it's a wild type. So it has to be cultivated and propagated to increase the number of leaf green mass on it if you want. But it can be grown in here in the northern region. In the far, definitely it flourishes there as well. Yeah.
Rosemary is another, I think, plant which does very well in the mountain areas like Jabal Akhdar and Jabal Shams. And it's very expensive. if you go to Mualahis, 1 kilo is 8 riyals. It comes from Kenya.
Yes.
So, you know, these things can grow here, and yet we are sleeping.
So the opportunities are many, and I think thank you, Engineer Saleh, for mentioning Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. They have a lot of extension offices all over Oman, so they would be very helpful in telling which species you think would be available. Us as Mawarid, we have the database and we have the locations. So in our database, we know the locations of all the species and where they're located. We equip the geographical, we have the GPS readings of all these locations. We got data from many of our stakeholders. The Natural History Museum provided us with a lot of data. So we're compiling data from everyone, and all those data have location data. So we can help really in identifying where these are located.
Hello.
Maybe the last question, Dr. Nadiya, where are we position-wise compared to GCC? In this regard, and do you have any relation, collaboration with them?
Yes. In terms of genetic resources, I think Saudi Arabia is the biggest one, and they're investing a lot in terms of agriculture and looking at genetic resources. There was mention of gene banks as being established in Qatar, Kuwait, and UAE, but I don't know much has happened in that area. We have also one of the largest base of biodiversity here in the Gulf countries. So I think we are second in line in terms of genetic resources, but also the research that we're working on genetic resources. Just having the gene bank and the center working on all 4 sectors of genetic resources is a kind of a unique setup, because around in the world you don't find this. Maybe there are 3 centers that actually cover all 4 species of categories of genetic resources. So I think to say that we just need to keep taking care of this center, I think it can go in a very good direction in terms of commercial opportunities and conservation of genetic resources. But we have a huge biodiversity in Oman as well, not as much as Saudi Arabia. Investment in Saudi Arabia is very huge. In terms of collaborations, we've had a few interactions, but not many. And I think due to the nature of fact that we as a center were growing still, and we didn't have enough human capacity. So now we are in a better position to start aligning with all different collaborators.
Thank you. Rehan?
Thank you very much. Would anyone like to ask any question? Engineer Ahmed Al-Ghafri have just sent a message apologizing for his mic issue, but he sent a message recently saying that actually we have a sort of cooperation between a central instruments lab at the College of Agriculture and Marine Science with Dr. Jamal Al-Sabahi.
Yes, we are also working with Dr. Jamal Al-Sabahi in terms of some projects on looking at medicinal plants and the effect on human diseases. So we do collaborate with them quite. We try to collaborate with all the different stakeholders. I mean, at Sharqiya University, we have the Algae project with them. So we established a lab there for looking at algae species. And Dhofar, we are keen to start our collaboration with Dhofar University. We have been talking quite a bit, and I think something will materialize from there as well. But we are open to anyone, and we look for the opportunities to collaborate with anyone.
Thank you very much. I think we have covered all the questions from our guests, and we would like to close with the last words from Mr. Simon Karam.
Thank you very much, Rehan. Just to refresh a little bit our memory and bring back the major points that Dr. Nadiya has brought in, very interesting points. So the center considers that we have a national treasure. It is a genetic treasure, you know, and they work on plants, animals, marine, and microbes. The mission of the center is to promote recognition, and we said it's a good example today, and to find sustainable exploitation and assess, give valuation to this treasure. And their vision is to build capacity and add value. the key word is to add value. And the center has aligned itself or its vision with 2040. And then she talked about many initiatives, they've already started. On animals, domesticated or wild, the idea is for the domesticated is to preserve them and develop them. She talked about project for arthropods and developing a gene bank. Omani sheep, they have a huge database, which is by itself a magnificent resource, I think. They established a bank, or they want to establish a bank, a gene bank. An example was given for salmon, straws from elite local bulls. Incidentally, one of our friends is very much knowledgeable about horses, and he reckons that a salmon from a good horse may reach, the cost of it may reach about 340,000 riyals sometimes. A project on the hare, and she talked about for every topic she talked about, she gave the commercial potential and opportunities. On marine, she talked about diatom. They are small things, apparently. They are nano. Soft corals, algae, marine sponges, seaweed. And all these have got commercial use, such as pharmaceutical, cosmetic, or food. Only in soft corals, we reckon there are 5,000 products that use soft corals. So that's for marine. A microbial, which he talked about fungi and their antibiotic properties. Macrofungi, we talked a bit about the mushrooms, and quite interestingly, she said there's 84 types of mushrooms that are available in Dhofar in particular, and 11 types are new. And finally, she talked about the plant sector, forestry, ornamental plants, crop plants, medicinal plants, particularly the frankincense. The strategy is to make a gene bank. And already they have wheat and barley. An interesting study on banana field gene bank, medicinal and aromatic plants. And to answer some questions, yes, Mawarid have got their website. And the database on all plant is available. We wait one day to have all database available. They do also events, interesting events. Actually, one of them is innovative, which is the mobile exhibition. I like very much the idea of having a speaker in a cafe, because that's what we do in Majlis Al Khonji. Unfortunately, we lost the cafe. we used to get all sorts of treats in the house of His Excellency Khalil. Now we have to stick to our, sort of. And the program, which is enlightening for the future, is Manafia, where you get all these innovators together. But as we said, we need more collaboration, more communication. And finally, the dream of the center is to build an Oman Life Science Center, which will encompass all these activities of research. It will encompass an international school for science and technology, an academy, especially academy for children with special needs, and discovery center. We learned a lot. The questions were, I think, very, very interesting. Thank you, Doctor, and thank you, Your Excellency Khalil, for giving many people, the opportunity to know each other and see what they're doing. Shukran jazeelan.
Shukran jazeelan. Dear all, we have reached to the end of our session. Dr. Nadiya, thank you indeed.
Thank you.
Discussion. Thank you, our guest, for your active participation. We see you next Saturday in another interesting session with Muscat University. The session will be presented by Professor Khamis Al-Yahyai and other speakers from the university, and it will be in Arabic and moderated by Mr. Khalfan Al-Toqi. Until we see you next Saturday, thank you very much. Stay safe.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
دكتور نادية.
أحسن. شكرا. Thank you.
شكرا.
سعادتك. شكرا.
شكرا جزيلا. مع
مع
السلامة.
السلامة.
Good.